Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Kenn Dowell giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. Giving inspiration through information, providing liberation with conversation, giving fresh insight for elevation. Cause he knows this is how we reach our greatness. And he riding with the people of all walks of life, cause we all kinfolk. So when one win, we all win, so we all in. This is how we build community, you dig? So tap in, I will do it now. You want answers, he will break them down. The most informative place around. This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell. This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell. This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.
Back against corporate DEI may have scored their biggest victory yet. Walmart, the nation's largest private employer, just announced it is rolling back its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives amid outcries over so-called corporate wokeism and claims that DEI is more divisive than inclusive. Walmart says it's ending racial equity training programs for staff, evaluating programs designed to increase supplier diversity, reviewing funding of pride events, and removing sexual or transgender products marketed to children. Now, Walmart defends the move, saying, quote, "We have been on a journey and know we aren't perfect, but every decision comes from a place of wanting to foster a sense of belonging." Other companies making similar moves. They include Harley-Davidson, Tractor Supply, and John Deere.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Kenn Dowell. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every week right here on this channel. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resources, where we specialize in political campaigns, government, and public relations work. Been doing it in this state for about over 25 years now, and I want to make your next move a strategic move, and this program gives me an opportunity to do just that. I get a chance to bring on some of the people I met. We talk about some of the issues that are going on, and hopefully there's something you can get out of it that'll help you in your business or personal life. So if it sounds like something you're interested in, all I need you to do is hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell as well, so that you'll know the next time this program is coming on. So before we get started, I want to do a really quick shout out to the podcast producer of the program who's helping us put this thing together, DJ True. What's going on, sir? I'm doing great. You didn't bring yourself up on the camera, but that's okay. We'll just keep things moving today. All right. So, okay. All right. Okay. You weren't trying to be on the screen today. All right. Well, everything's good. So what I want to do, folks, we're going to dive right in, because today we're going to talk about two really most important things, two really big topics that's going around and shaking up America today. The first one is the Walmart. Walmart, the nation's largest private employer, has decided to roll back its diversity and equity inclusion policy. Some say it's a move to align with the shifting public sentiment. Others argue that it's a step backward in marginalizing our communities. And later we're going to tackle another polarizing issue. That's the Hunter Biden pardon from President Joe Biden. And we're going to talk about that to see if it's a sign of justice or political change in the case, or just a political charge in the case, or let me get my words right, excuse me. Or is it just a politically charged case, or is it private privilege over, is it privilege? Excuse me, y'all. I'm having a big time today. This is my first live, and I'm just trying to make sure we get this right. So we're going to find out, is it was just privilege, or was it politics as it relates to the Joe Biden pardon. So to help me get through this, I brought on a group of people that helped me get through this process. And in that, we got Congresswoman Shontel Brown. She's our Congresswoman for the 11th Congressional District. She's a leading voice in justice and equity in our community. We bring a powerhouse panel with us as well. We have Norm Edwards, president of the Black Contractors Group, former Judge Michael Nelson, and we have Dr. Heather Burton. She's a scholar, advocate for systemic change and diversity and equity. But first, let's start off by hearing from the Congresswoman directly. Congresswoman Shontel Brown, we want to welcome you to the program. How you doing today?
Hi guys, how's everybody? I'm great. Just touching down back from DC, fighting these Republicans as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's been a major attack on these programs, and this is something that I have worked towards elevating since I've been in local government, regionally at the county. Led the initiative to declare racism as a public health crisis because we realize that many of the disparities that we experience, whether it's healthcare, whether it is education, from transportation to housing to contracting, all have systemic, institutional, and structural ties to racism. And so, to me, this elimination of DEI is more of an anti-Black policy. That is simply what it is. And let's call it what it is. While they want to scream it's reverse racism, we were just in a committee hearing.
Uh-oh. Congresswoman froze. Oh, she's back now.
It's ironic that they want to institute policies that they claim are dedicated to reversing racism, but they don't want to acknowledge that racism exists when it comes to Black people.
What do you think Democrats, especially Black lawmakers, can do to assure that equality remains a priority in the face of this culture pushback?
Well, we have to continue to be vocal. That's why folks like Norm Edwards are very important, very powerful. We need leaders in the community. It's not just can't just be left up to lawmakers. Right now, we are in the minority. We are in a Trump trifecta in this particular upcoming term in 2025, 2025, 2026. Republicans have the White House, they have the House of Representatives, and they have the Senate. The good news is they have very thin majorities, is particularly in the House of Representatives, and so they may not be able to shove these policies that they are pushing as quickly and as aggressively as they may like. So we'll have to just continue to hold the line and be the voices that say this is wrong and that it is racist.
Do you think that what's going on with the Walmart situation, how do you think those kind of stands affected the election coming up? Do you think that the American public just didn't care about that thing, or what was your thoughts on that?
Ken, I'm still trying to collect the data and see what happened. As a Black woman, I took it very personal. I felt like this election was the outcome, and some people voted along racial and gender lines.
Hmm.
I feel like that was a big part of it. When people talk about the economy, the vice president had an opportunity economy plan that she rolled out, something specific for Black men. She rolled out. So when people start saying it was about the economy, I kind of have to call BS on that, because the policies that the Biden-Harris administration and Democrats put forward were definitely dealing with the economy. Now, are people still hurting? Yes, but we are recovering from a worldwide pandemic. It's hard to explain to folks. It would be worse. They would be worse off, but perhaps we're in that fool around and find out phase, right? As they like to say, I'm gonna keep it clean. The fool around and find out phase is when you
Right.
have President Trump, who campaigned on policies about weaponizing the government, retribution, getting revenge, and all of those things are coming to fruition. A person who denied that he even knew what Project 2025, half of his nominees for cabinet appointments are affiliated with. I shouldn't say half, but a good portion of them. So, the things that that people thought we were being frantic or hyperbolic about are actually coming to fruition. The only thing that we can hope for is that the Senate will have a strong enough spine to push back on some of these ridiculous nominees that will inevitably roll back the progress that we have been able to make. When you talk about Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, their pockets have increased exponentially since
Mhm.
election day. I mean, they have gotten billions of dollars in their bank accounts, and
Mhm.
people out here are still paying high prices for eggs, and so they are winning. They are doing what they intended to do, and I don't see this trickling down to the people who need it the most and who are going to be impacted by the reckless policies that they are proposing as it relates to our community, but especially around diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We've seen the dramatic shift in public opinion when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, better known as DEI. What is once priority for businesses and a point of interest for the public is now becoming a lightning rod for political controversy. But do you? But let's take the words out of it. I want to show you a video. I want to show Latif. Let's show him this other video. I'm going to show you a video, and after this video, we're going to bring up our other panelists to kind of discuss this. And in this video, it talks about the shift in DEI and how it affected going into this election. Let's play that video.
How do people feel about companies taking even a stand on the issue?
Now, this is where it gets very interesting because here we have a real-time trend. So let's take a look at it, all right? Businesses' DEI public stance. Important to know, back in 2021, so we can go all the way back then, right? Just after the summer of George Floyd, which of course was back in 2020. How important did folks think it was to know the DEI stances of businesses? It was 68%. It was 68%. Look at where we are now in 2024, a real decrease. Just 53% of Americans want to know a business's DEI stance. So what we've seen here is back right after the summer of George Floyd, there was a lot of interest in DEI, a lot of interest in folks knowing businesses' stances towards DEI. Now, considerably less so in 2024. This is a drop of 15 points. That's a considerable drop. I like looking at poll questions. You oftentimes don't see this type of drop unless there's a real change in public opinion.
That's striking, those numbers. I remember 2021 very well and how important it was to people in the community and, frankly, voters overall. It's become this issue of DEI and concept a political lightning rod, especially among conservatives, Harry. How do Republicans and Democrats view it?
Yeah, what is driving this decline? It's Republicans. Okay, important to want to know a business's DEI stance. You go back to 2021. Look, there was a partisan divide between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats coming in at 86%, Republicans coming in at 50%. Democrats have basically stayed pretty steady on this issue, right? In 2024, it's 79%, a slight drop, but not so far off from that 86%. Look at Republicans. Look at this drop off in this number. 50% back in 2021 said it was important to know a business's stance on DEI. Now it's just 22%. That is a drop of more than half from 2021 to 2024. And that, of course, is mirroring what we're seeing from politicians, from Republicans, folks like Donald Trump. The bottom line is the Republican base on DEI 3 years ago, lukewarm, now in vast opposition to it. They don't want to hear anything from businesses on DEI, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of businesses differentiating themselves out, saying, you know what, we're taking it.
So there you have it. We look at those numbers. We know that DEI has taken a dramatic drop since the beginning of that. And some folks like to believe that a lot of that was due to when it first started was the George Floyd incident, and everybody was really hot and heavy on that. And as African Americans, we got behind that issue and everyone was looking for some type of equality out of that. And then as things started to change and affirmative action started to take highlight from people who wanted to end affirmative action. Seemed like this DEI thing took off and everyone got involved and let's do DEI, equity and inclusion. And I want to pose a question to the Congresswoman and to all our panelists who joined us now. As it relates to that, how do you think DEI is losing its traction in the public sphere? And what does it mean for Black Americans in a marginalized community? I want to start with Congresswoman, let you start with that question. And then from there, I want to have our first guest, Mrs. Dr. Burton, to follow up with you. She's the newest and new person to our whole panel here. And we'll follow up with her, and then everyone else can chime on in. So start with you, Congresswoman, and then Dr. Burton, you can go ahead and take it from there.
Well, I do want to highlight something, Ken, and that is that this year the CBC reached out to all the Fortune 500 companies and asked them to update us on their diversity commitments, and a good majority of them did. So, what we're seeing from Walmart, though, is caving to bullying, caving to the Republicans that are pushing their extra conservative, extreme conservative conservative policies and claiming that they are pro-business when they are not. These pro-business, so-called pro-business policies are truly anti-Black. So that's the one thing that I want to say. The other thing that I think that is important for our marginalized communities, when we're talking about people who have, again, been struggling to make ends meet, this might not be at the top of their radar, but it is going to impact them the most. And so that is the thing that, as a member of Congress and as a member of the CBC, that I am fighting for every day in the halls of Congress, is to make sure that these folks that are trying to take away the programs and services that have given us an opportunity to make some progress do not alleviate them. So it is the fight that we are in right now. It's a fight that we've been fighting since we've been uh, brought over here on boats and ships, and it will be a fight that we have to continue. We can't turn a blind eye and act as if everything is all good and that race does not matter in this country, because clearly it does. And the Republicans are putting up a real fight to make sure that we do not continue to make any advancements. And it is very frustrating from my perspective.
Mhm. Dr. Burton, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I agree with the Congresswoman. And I think when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the buzzword has caused it to become this negative thing. And in thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's important to point out that we didn't just start doing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so when we let me back up. What I really like to say is that diversity has become the watered down thing to include other populations. And when
Correct.
other populations, marginalized populations became, it then diluted the work. And so when we really think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've been doing this work, as a Congresswoman said, since 1619, when the white lion landed in Jamestown, Virginia. So this work is not new.
Uh-oh. I think somebody,
Somebody,
I need to mute somebody.
there's somebody.
Yeah.
I think it's this guy here. All right. Um, 1 second. Um, all right, I think I got it. Okay, y'all.
Now, and so it's become this attack. And when we think about it, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we started with affirmative action. And then many people can remember we moved to minority affairs. And from minority affairs, we moved to multiculturalism. And from multiculturalism, we then moved to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But when we think about minority affairs, when we think about multiculturalism, especially when we're talking about the higher ed context, is that it was about the Black and brown community. And then we added diversity. And as soon as we added diversity, and I'll back up, we added diversity because everybody said, "What about me?" But in the "what about me," they left the Black community behind. And
Mhm.
so now we have this, we're going to pull back and we're not going to support the Black community. And Congresswoman said this, it's racism. It's racism at its finest. It will always be racism. And so when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and the pullback, am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised. I'm also not surprised because when we think about 2020, and in 2020, we had George Floyd, we had Breonna Taylor, we had the social unrest. And there were many companies and many individuals that committed to diversity and inclusion. But what happened to the work is that the work started getting people in the work that did not know how to do the work.
Mm.
And so they got in the work and they didn't know what they were doing. And I can't tell you how many diversity, equity, and inclusion professionals I have run into that said, "I am in this role because I am such and such. I am in this role because I am Black, but I really don't know what I'm doing." And so when you start putting people into the role just to say, we're doing this as window dressing, but they don't understand what the work really is and how to do it, we get a lot of things that have happened within society.
Norm Edwards, you've been a constant voice for contractors and people in this community for years as it relates to just what we're talking about. What you say as it relates to this?
Like the doctor said, and Congresswoman, it's racism at its finest. We've been dealing with it for a long time. We thought that we made some progress with the George Floyd. When they murdered George Floyd, they gave up $100 million, Walmart, for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
How do you snatch that off the table? You snatch that money off the table. It hasn't been 5 years since they put that money in there. And Walmart has been one of the most racist, it's the largest retailer in the US. It's been one of the most racist institutions in the United States since its inception. So it just didn't happen, 20 years ago. I was watching Mark Morial from the Urban League talk about how he had a great relationship with Walmart over the past 20 years, but yet he was never contacted about them pulling the plug on the DEI. It's only getting worse. They're getting richer. We are in serious trouble. I wouldn't buy anything. We've been in contact with other groups in Atlanta, in Baltimore, in Chicago, and Detroit, and we're looking at doing a massive boycott. So we're doing talking. We've been on the phone with folks in different cities. I wouldn't buy anything from Walmart at all. I wouldn't buy a Ford. I wouldn't buy any of those listed on those 20 or so large companies. And I've told my family members also not to buy. And we're going to pick one of the Walmarts here, probably the one in University Heights or South Euclid on Warrensville Center Road. And we are going to gather and protest it and let them know we are ticked off. We are angry. We are mad. We have been left out for so long, and we have the playing field has never been level. And the young lady from Case talked about the unqualified people. She's absolutely right. They get in there, take a paycheck, and they don't have a clue. We don't need clueless people just there for a job. We also need and I've talked to Congresswoman Brown. She did an outstanding job when she was at the county. She stood up and made sure that Black contractors got a piece of the pie. Our politicians and our ministers, they cannot be silent. And they don't have to like me, and I don't have to like them. We have to get united, and we have to build up, and we have to get strong together to defeat them. Because we can beat them. I mean, we're going to be around. We're not going nowhere. We'll be here.
Let me say something to that point, because you brought up something when you talked about the protesting and not going to Walmart. And Congresswoman, I'll throw this at you because you understand this a little bit. Unfortunately for many of our communities, they have no choice whether they go to a Walmart or whatnot to do their grocery shopping because of the food deserts and things that are in our communities that are there. And it seems like that the Walmart seems to be the one that's taking that big void, and that's the reason why there's such a big powerhouse in that. Just talking about, and I will segue into Judge Nelson on it too. What's your thoughts about, Norm wants to do that, and we can. That is the best way of doing it. But how do we get around that for people to maybe make that stance, but be able to, still survive out here?
Can
It's
I say
tough.
one?
Oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Norm. Yes.
Where is the closest Walmart in the city of Cleveland?
University and South Euclid, and the
Okay.
one
Steelyard.
is in
That's
down
the
in
Steel
Steel
Yard
Yard.
Commons. So
Right.
most of the people in the city of Cleveland do not have transportation to get there. So they don't shop there. So, and even if they did, there are other stores that they
Okay.
could go to. Lowe's is another store. I think
Mm-hmm.
Toyota is involved in this now. So
Mm-hmm.
our dollars, black people spend a lot of money.
Trillions of
And,
dollars.
and,
That's true.
and we cannot continue
Mm-hmm.
to get slapped around like take our money, take our jobs, give us. We need that training for management training. We need to progress. They don't give us enough time, and like I said, the playing field is not level. We still have a hell of a long way to go.
Congresswoman.
Right, and I agree with Norm as it relates to the playing field not being level, and that we have to continue to be vocal. I think that there are many ways to get the attention of leaders in these corporations, be it boycotting, be it making your message heard with your pocketbook or your checkbook, and not by not shopping there. Picketing, those types of things are definitely options. I'm a legislator, so what I have to figure out ways is how we can remind corporate America there's more than one side to the story. They cannot succumb to the pressure of the Republican bullying, because too many other people are being impacted. And the unfortunate thing is those that are being most impacted are often those who are least involved. And so that is part of the challenge. But as a representative democracy, when I'm sitting across from these folks and they come into my office and they have requests, the first thing that I'm asking them is, what does your organization look like? What does is it reflective of the United States? Who are your black leaders? Who are, those are things that I have learned largely in part at regional level because of folks like Norm Edwards. I also think it's important to point out that these Republicans have been playing a long-term game. While we're playing checkers, they're playing chess. They have dominated the court. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Judge Nelson has to say, because a lot of them are also fearful when you have this Republican dominated bench, is that they don't feel like the cases will fall in their favor, even if they are supportive of DEI efforts, because the Republican courts are dominated by these extreme MAGA Republican judges right now. Because when Trump was in office back in 2016, he was able to appoint these judges who have weighed in on these decisions that have reversed course on decades of precedent. So now we're virtually back to pre-civil rights era, fighting for things that we once had. And it's a trifecta. They're doing it with education, they're doing it with government, and now they're attacking the private sector. So with that, I'm going to yield to the judge, because Judge, help us. Tell us what we can do to deal with these courts.
Well, I think that the first thing we have to recognize is that affirmative action, which has led to which DEI is now the final form of, started by John F. Kennedy when he created the EEOC in 1964. The problem was, when the EEOC was created in order to address racial discrimination, it was significantly underfunded and has never been funded to a level where they could create a tremendous backlog of discrimination cases. So you have this backlog because of the lack of staff and resources. And then let's look at how the EOC progressed. The first director was Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas. Then you look at when Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the executive order that created affirmative action, also in '64, after Kennedy died, was assassination. He didn't die; he was assassinated. We have been in this ongoing struggle for the last 59 years, where we reached a zenith at one point, and it's been chipped away. Affirmative action has been being chipped away. The Voting Rights Act is being chipped away by judges who've been appointed by Republican judges over a period of time. So this ain't like new. We've been in this struggle now since these institutions or ideologies were first created. So we look at affirmative action. What was it designed to do? It was to redress discrimination against Black folks and create and eliminate the disadvantages to level the playing field. Now, some folk may have thought the playing field was going to be like level instantaneously. It didn't happen that way. And as we did make significant progress, because the creation of both the EOC and Johnson initiation of affirmative action were great steps in progress. And it was an ascension. But we reached a point when Reagan came in, who was anti-affirmative action. And every time we have another election, whatever progress we make is knocked down by that Republican president. But it's not just that Republican president. The Republican president represents the sentiment of the country. If you look at, you had some videos up earlier, Ken, that showed how progress and support for affirmative action, DEI, has declined significantly amongst certain segments of our community, and represented by 3 of the 4 last 5 presidents, or 6 presidents. So you got to understand that this struggle is tied to both voting power and the fact that many of our allies, when DEI was created, the focus moved from redressing problems and discrimination against blacks to this larger pie where everybody jumped in, and the focus began to be also divided because it represented so many other constituencies. There are too many constituencies in the pot for the program to be as effective as it's supposed to be. Talking about Walmart, 2 years ago, Walmart had to settle by paying $4.4 million to a family who had been racially profiled in a Walmart store. $4.4 million. Walmart needs us much more than we need. We can get along fine without Walmart. Walmart needs us more than we need them. And the same thing, remember, we've been the profit margin for a number of major corporations, from Cadillac on down, Mercedes-Benz. We buy all the cars and they treat us like crap. So it's time for us to start becoming more discriminating with our dollars. Now, the other problem is that how do we get this message to the average person so they don't see these subtleties and these small points that we're talking about? People buying fur coats from people that discriminate against them, buying products from people that hate them, that hate us, but yet we're their margin, we're their profit margin every year. Black Friday, we flood the stores on Black Friday to move retailers from the red into the black. Those are our dollars, and we have to tie those dollars to our interest when we're spending at these various and sundry retail operations.
Dr. Burton, what you say as it relates to that, and you're dealing in that field every day, and as you take in everything, and we're getting ready to round this discussion down with DEI, so I'm going to let you go in and give us your thoughts and your closing remarks on this whole DEI subject.
Well, I think for DEI and understanding, the words, and this is what I always say, talking about it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And whether you say belonging, justice, it all falls in that category. And I think where people really go wrong is understanding that diversity impacts everybody. It doesn't matter what your social identities are. We all deal in some aspect of diversity of who we are. We may not want to accept it. We may not want to believe it, and we may not want to acknowledge it. But diversity impacts everybody. It impacts every system that we're in. But when we talk about the anti-DEI legislation, it is specifically aimed at certain populations, specifically that of the Black community, to keep Black folks, and however we want to classify that as Black people, specifically those who are descendants of slaves. But when we think about it, is that it keeps them from progressing. When we think about the Supreme Court decision around race-based neutrality in higher education, when we think about other things that impact, when we think about the state bills, the Senate bills, and the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. And I always go back to, we've got to think about where it came from historically. But we got to continue to do the work. So in spite of the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, of people not funding, as Norm said, we are the ones who hold the power. We have money and we keep spending. We also won't come together. It just makes me I'm about to go on a tangent because it also takes me to this whole idea of separatism and how as Black folks, we won't come together to fight an issue and be on the same page. And that all still goes back to stemming from history and where we trying to fit in and trying to identify and figure out who we are. But we still got to keep pushing forward and do the work.
We're going to bring you back on to have
And
a
let me
whole
say this
program just to talk about that. That's for sure. Go ahead.
you know, I'm looking at some of the comments. And they are really anti-DEI.
Yeah.
What we have to respect and understand is that this country was a good idea when it was started in 1776. 3 years later, they decided that African Americans, Black folks, would be only 3/5 of a vote if they could have voted. We have been in a constant slide. And then in 1861, instead of just signing a piece of paper that ended slavery like many of the other countries did, we decided to go to war and kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Kill each other and destroy infrastructure in the country because the attitude of many colonial Americans, which extends to this day, is that fairness and equity somehow has not penetrated their thick, evil skulls. And we have to recognize this is who we are. We are dealing with that kind of population. It is a undereducated population. Is a population that grows up in a certain demographic, and they have not been able to expand to a larger worldview. That's what we're stuck with in the United States, and we have to figure out how to. Dr. Burton talked about education, and I don't mean they're stupid. What I'm saying is that they don't understand how our Bill of Rights, Constitution works, what the basic underpinnings of this country and what separates us from monarchies. They never got over being, you have people who have immigrated to this country from places where you could not vote out the king, and they never got over that kind of cultural growing up. And that's what we're dealing with today.
Norm Edwards, we're going to bring you on. One of the comments I brought up one because it's a whole bunch of comments, but you're right. There's a lot of them I'm just not going to bring up. But this one I brought up, it was from Valerie. She said, Democrats have taken our civil rights and helped all minorities except for Black Americans, I would believe that is. So I wonder, what's your thoughts on that? Norm, we're going to let you chime in on that one to get started.
She said that. Could you repeat that?
Question was, she says, she just made a comment. Her comment was that she felt that the Democrats have taken our civil rights and helped all minority groups except for, I believe, Black Americans.
Wow. That's a stunner. You know, that is so not true. I mean, some of the comments that are on there, well, you can tell racism is still alive and very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
We pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
All of us pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So our monies go into tax funds, and they want to exclude us, feel like we are second-class citizens. We are trying to you try to do the right things, just like trying to get the young men and young women in the building trades. It's a difficult task because in the 108-year history, we have never had a Black or minority business manager. So they can call the union halls and they can ask for 10 Blacks or 10 minorities and 10 whites, and they'll tell you that all the Blacks are working. They're sitting in the back on a guardrail at the union hall. So we don't have the people to put them into play, to put them out there. So we are so far behind, and we're trying to get to where we need to be. And you know what? It's going to take a lot of intervention from the man up above. With God watching over us, we shall prevail. There is no fear. And we're fighting for our future, our kids, our grandkids, nieces, nephews, your kids that I don't know. So the hell with the comments. The fight is on. We're not going nowhere.
There
Okay?
you go.
So they can say whatever they want to say. We're doing the right thing. The Congresswoman stood up when she was at the county. The doctor standing up over at Case Western Reserve. You're out doing your thing. Mike Nelson is out doing his thing. They don't want they think that we are stupid yo-yos. And you know what? We are just as smart, if not smarter than they are. And they don't feel as though we deserve anything, that we should still be slaves. That's what they want us to be. And we're not going there. They can all go to hell. We're not going there. And I'll be damned if I don't stand up and fight, not just for my family, but your family and everybody on the panel's family, everybody in the city of Cleveland, everybody in the state of Ohio, and we will boycott. We have to boycott. We will not spend our dollars and they slap us and kick us out the back door. That's not happening. And again, they
Hey,
can go
Norm.
to hell.
Hey, Norm, remember, we only get 1% of Cuyahoga County's budget spent with minority vendors. So we ain't got to even go to Washington. We can just go on 9th
let me say this. The business that I'm in, the construction business, the black contractors only get 1/100th of 1,000% of the trillions of dollars that are spent every year. So it's nothing. They give us peanuts and they want us to bow down and shine shoes. We don't shine shoes anymore. We don't do that. And we're going to continue to fight and do what we need to do. And we need the unity. Just because a couple of us got a couple of dollars, they feel that they made it. So you move to Pepper Pike. So big deal. Okay? We need to stand together. The politicians, I'm going to sit down with the mayor next week. I'm sitting down with Blaine, the council president, and I'm telling them, we have to take the city of Cleveland. We cannot let the people from the suburbs run this city because they give you money for the election. Don't take it. Mm-hmm. Don't take the money. They can't vote because they don't live here. So their vote don't mean anything.
Congresswoman, I want to, because I know I got you on a tight schedule here. You had a comment, because I want to transition to my next segment so we could get you out on time. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to dovetail into what Norm was saying when he talked about the unions, right? We have been excluded for decades from being recruited or able to work in the unions. And so that is a prime example of the systemic, institutional, and structural racism that we're talking about that puts us as Black people at a disadvantage. So I wouldn't expect people who have never experienced not having their white privilege to understand the struggle of Black Americans who have been oppressed. That is oppression. The fact that we came over here and built this country for free put our white counterparts at a much greater advantage in life. So they were able to pass down generational wealth to their children, things that we did not get the privilege of enjoying. So that is why other minority groups can come over here and advance a lot faster. They have not had the barriers, they have not had the systems, they have not had the institutional oppression that Black people have experienced in this country to make it harder for them to be on a level playing field. And I often refer to an analogy that I saw online is if you were playing Monopoly and somebody told you you could not roll the dice for 400 rounds, and during that 400 rounds you had to work for the other person. That is putting people at a disadvantage. That is what essentially has happened to Black people. So for people to act as if they can't understand the disparities and the differences and the disadvantages that Black people have experienced and continue to experience to this day because of government policies and practices that have been in place for decades, that is why. So no, we're still celebrating first in this country as Black people because we have been held back for centuries. And so when we do get a chance to advance, the opportunities are then again snatched away, like they did with Rosewood, like they did with Tulsa, like we're seeing now as a result of civil rights. And now we're seeing judges stack the deck and pull away the progress as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that is what I wanted to say. It's because of the systems, it's because of the institutions. If we had come to this country and had been given the same opportunities and not treated as 3/5 of a human being, then we could have a conversation about why we don't need these programs. But when an entire community has been held back based on their skin color, not because they didn't qualify, not because they didn't have the knowledge, we were brought over here because of our skills and knowledge, but we weren't given the opportunities to advance or given the opportunities to utilize our skills to put us at an advantage. Our skills and opportunities were used to advance white people, and they built a country on our backs. And now we're still recovering from that.
Hey, I want to end this discussion on DEI right at that point. I want to thank all of my guests for coming on. Dr. Burton, again, this is your first time on. You guys going to see more from her. She wrote a book and a few other things that she got going on that I want to bring her back on and talk more to us about her book and some of this other work that she's doing in the community. We'll look forward to that. Judge Nelson is going to always be a contributor to our program. We will see him pretty soon, as well as Norm. I want to thank you, brother, for coming on, giving us your energy and your knowledge of this whole situation. And thanks again for you guys coming on. We're going to get faded into our next segment of our program. And what we're going to do there is we're going to play a really quick little video, and we're going to bring in one of our guests who's going to be working with us on this one, Pastor Aaron Phillips. So let's bring Lateef, let's get that video rolling and we'll go from there.
Let me ask you something that's going around right now. A lot of this conversation about President Biden getting criticized from both sides of the aisle for pardoning his son Hunter after repeatedly saying he would never do it. And a lot of people are saying that it's hypocritical, et cetera, as if the other side doesn't do it. But what's your reaction to it?
I mean, I think all of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time. And, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But since they were calling Trump a threat to democracy, and they were saying that, nobody's above the law, but they were speaking about him. That's what they were running on. So when he kept saying things like, nobody's above the law, I respect, the jury's decision in regards to my son, he didn't believe that. But he didn't have to volunteer that lie to begin with.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a sudden?
No, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
All right, there we go. Congresswoman, I wanted to get a chance to get you, and I got Pastor Phillips. Pastor, you walking around your house, sir. Can you sit still for a second so we can talk to you for a minute, man? Jeez, you waited the whole time, and I got you on mute. Hold on 1 second. All right, sir. Now.
Okay. I knew I was on mute, so I thought I had some more time to get ready.
No, we was waiting on you. You was moving around, getting everybody dizzy. So we want to welcome you to our program. Thanks again. Congresswoman, you watched that video, and I know that I brought Pastor Phillips on because he was one of the main people who knew what was going on, and he had some really strong words about that. And I wanted to get your opinion on it. I know we've been riding with Biden. I'm one of them riding with Biden guys with you all along. I never wanted him to get out the race in the first place. I honestly believe he did a better job just based on the circumstances and the time, but that's neither here or there at this point. So I wanted to hear your opinion. What's the DC word about it, and what everybody, the buzzword about Joe Biden going out now and saying, you know what, hell with this, I'm gonna pardon my son.
I listen. I can't speak for DC and all of the Democrats because there's a split. But I believe President Biden did the right thing. Listen, we all want the justice system to be fair. And what we have seen is that Hunter Biden, and I saw this up close and personal because I serve on the oversight committee, and I saw Republicans just repeatedly going after Hunter Biden for his laptop. And so the man was never, he should not have been in our oversight committee because he's never been a part of government. He's the president's son. And I think the only reason they attacked him the way that they did, so aggressively prosecuting him, was because he was President Biden's son. There are people who have had similar cases, similar charges that have not undergone the prosecution and persecution of President Biden's son. So I thought President Biden did the right thing. And I also think that he has an opportunity to do the right thing for some other folks who have been unfairly prosecuted and persecuted and have received excessive sentences. And so I think that he legitimately changed his mind. I think that, and I'm going to turn it over to the pastor after I say this one remark. I think we need to afford people the grace that we would want to receive, and that is we have the right to change our minds. I don't think in the decades of service that President Biden has given to this country that he has ever demonstrated character that would say that he has been abusive of his power. And so I would say that he did the right thing, exercise the grace that you would want to receive, and he has the chance to do even more for other folks who have suffered similar situations.
Pastor Phillips.
Amen. Hey, good evening, everybody. Good to see everyone today. I don't understand why any Democrat is against letting having Joe Biden pardon his son. That's one of the things I have a problem with. And generally speaking, I vote for Democrats. I follow and support my Congresswoman. But sometimes Democrats can be so weak. And one thing we can learn from the Republicans is they know how to stay together and they know how to be strong. And, I was one of those people as well, Ken, who believed that Biden should have stayed in the race. We actually had a whole rally at our church, at Sure House Baptist Church, where the Congresswoman came to stand for Joe Biden. I couldn't believe then that Democrats and liberal people were publicly denouncing our president. You will never see that from the Republicans. But all of the stuff that Donald Trump has done, they don't come out and they don't come out against him. They stand for him, stand with him, and he's about the evil. And I don't really think he changed his mind. I think that when he said, "I'm not going to pardon my son," he believed, like we all did, that Kamala Harris was going to win. So if Kamala Harris wins, she was going to do it. So it wouldn't have been no problem. So I think that anybody who wants to say anything smart aleck or be negative about that, they just want to be a negative person. And that's what's wrong with the Democratic Party. We need to learn how to be unified. People always say Democrats fall in love, but Republicans know how to fall in line. We need more falling in line in the Democratic Party and saying we should be applauding and thanking Joe Biden for his service and thanking him for putting an end to the hunt after his son, Hunter. We should be thanking him for that, because otherwise we'd be hearing all about that all through the Trump term. So it's just a smart move. We should stand with it. If I was the president and my son was in that predicament, I would pardon him. If I was the president and I was in that predicament, I'd pardon myself. We just need to just be honest with each other and say that's what we're going to do. Nothing. What's wrong with being honest and being bold with our statements and standing strong on it? But I seen a Democratic senator who said it was good for him as a father, but not as a president. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Just because you're the president of the United States, you do not stop being a father, and that he's a father not only for Hunter Biden, but he's a father for our country. He's setting an example what it means to stand with and support people, and that's how we need to become as Democrats.
Well, some people seem to feel that because he said one thing and did something else, make him hypocritical.
Man, that's the craziest thing I've heard in my life. People, the hypocrite is the people who voted for Donald Trump. The people who believe in democracy, but they voted for a dictator. The people who believe that we should have a person who knows how to run the country and voted for Donald Trump. Those are the hypocrites. If you believe in our country and what we do, you should. I can't believe. Well, it was very close, but I can't believe there's still millions of people who are believing and following this liar. What about all these Christian nationalists who stand up and they want want to be with Jesus on Sunday, but they with the devil on Monday through Saturday with Donald Trump. They're the hypocrites. He is not being hypocritical. He's being strong, and we need strong leadership. I am so tired of Democrats being weak, weak, and sorry. We need to learn how to stand up and be strong and not be afraid of criticism. And that was the greatest thing. I was so glad to see him do that. And I understood why he said no in the first place. It was political. He should have said he wasn't going to do it because he didn't want anybody to use that for a reason for not to vote for the Democrats. I get it. That makes sense in the world. So we should, some people just want to make a name for themselves and get on there. I could not believe Charlamagne the God did that. He's supposed to be a strong young black man. Where's your strength at now, brother? Now you want to be weak. You want to be weak sometimes, strong sometimes. Got to be the same. Got to be the same. He's pitiful. Pity and full.
Congresswoman, we're gonna let you in. We got 3 minutes left. I said I was gonna get you out on time. You get to close our show out. I want to tell everybody here, thanks for watching our program. Anything, we're gonna leave links in the description where you can find out more information about DEI programs that are going on and what's going on and how you can reach out to everybody who was on our program today. Congresswoman, your last words and get us out of here.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you, Kenn Dowell, for the privilege of your audience today and this amazing panel. I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of this conversation. I just want to remind folks that their vote still has value and the next election has already begun. So we cannot waddle in self-pity if the election did not go your way. And for those who think that there was a landslide victory, I need to remind you that the House of Representatives is a very slim margin, and a banana peel, a cold, a delayed flight can change the game in the House of Representatives any day of the week right now. And so we need to be thoughtful about what we are going to do, strategic in how we're going to move forward, and still keeping our foot on the gas. We cannot take our foot off the gas. One of the things that I respect about these Republicans is that they are relentless in their pursuit of power. They do not give up. They have been fighting to overturn Roe v. Wade for decades. And so we have to be equally vigilant and really focus on what it is that we want to accomplish. So yeah, they may have won this election, but we still got a lot of fight in us. And as Black people, I strongly believe we are the most resilient, resourceful, creative, and brilliant people that can really come up with some ways to survive. So we will continue. We will not only survive, we are going to thrive. We are going to continue to blossom and be the best version of ourselves. And until we meet again, just stay encouraged, y'all. Stay encouraged, stay in the fight, and let's go, because it's not over. We still got a lot of work to do.
Excellent work. I want to thank everybody for watching the program, and we're going to continue to keep working hard at this. One thing is for sure, those Republicans, they strong because they jumped all in these comments. I advertised we were going to do this program. The Republicans showed up for Donald Trump. Democrats, that's what we talk about, this fight and everything, and we talk
relentless. They are relentless.
Show up, man, and we pushed it out to everybody. So we're going to continue to do our work, and we want you guys to continue to do yours. Thanks for all the hard work you do, Congresswoman. Thanks to all my panelists, and we will see y'all at the next show. Peace. Good job, everybody.